Now, with all that being said, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here. So in today's episode, we are talking about, and we'll do this first, we'll do the map reveal for a couple of the different factions. We're going to start off with the Federation. So let's head over to the map, and here we are. So here we can see, now of course, as always, all these maps are displaced, and as we're seeing here, the map is on Vassal. So this is really, really interesting. Now we know from turn 32, so this is turn 34 that we're looking at right now. We know from a previous live stream before Christmas, we know that the Federation encountered the Tholians earlier. But if we look at this map, we can't see any red ships on the map, right? But what can we see? We can see two slow size class 4 ships in these grayed out hexes that are very close to various ships. So this is interesting to note. So first of all, let's take away the ships real quick and show you the bases. Oh! Okay. I didn't see that. This is the first time I'm seeing this as well. So we take away the ships, and what do we see? A Tholian base. Boom! So we know that the Federation has, like, in all earnest, bumped into the Tholians substantially. I mean, they have a base right there, so that's going to be the edge of their sort of territory, at least. And as we can see here, it's the ships that are there. There is a YCA, so probably one of the best ships that the Federation can put out right now, being that they're in Y-Tech. So a Y-era cruiser with a prime team, and they encountered that base. So what's really important about this right now? Well, let's take away the ships for a second. So one of the features of the game right now is the sharing of maps, and the intelligence you get from that's really important. In this map, we can see that there is a distance of 5 hexes between, 5 hexes between these two bases. The closest bases, that is. And in order for two empires to share information on their maps, or the maps to open up, so to speak, both parties have to be within supply distance of each other. Now, we know that the Federation is at supply 3 at the very least. So let's set the supply to 3. So there would have to be a supply point within this radius, within the blue hexes. So for example, let's say Zulu 39 here. If there was a base, a Tholian base right there, and they were within 3 hexes of each other, the Federation and the Tholian base, then at that point, the maps would open up. Why? Because in the world of the game that we're playing, there is a commercial or merchant kind of economy, and you would have these trade ships going back and forth. And as trade ships go back and forth, merchants would share news and comments and share maps. And the idea is that the information would be disseminated amongst the population, and eventually there would be news and word of this massive, or this other people that exist on this other far side of the galaxy, and would open up. So once supply touches both bases or both supply points, the map will open up. And so what we can see here is, let's show the supply for the Tholians. And you can see that there is an overlap of these, basically, this strip of hexes here. So based on what's already been explored, if you had a Tholian or Federation base that was in either one of these hexes, or I suppose any of these over here, then the maps would open up. So if you open up the maps, that's great. You can see back and forth. It's no big deal. But if you don't, there is a distinct advantage to doing that, because you keep the other player in the dark as to what's going on. Now, Of course, we're sharing these maps, so to speak, on this live stream. So if the Tholian player is watching, then they can see what's going on. But from the perspective of knowing exactly where all the ships are and knowing what you're doing, that is a distinct strategic advantage. Let's bring the ships back real quick. And we can see that, so we've got 2 size class 4 ships, 1 each here. Those most likely are YFESs, or Y-era freighters that are exploration freighters. So YFES, small exploration freighters. So Y-era freighter, exploration small. So YFES. That is what is most likely in those 2 hexes. And as we can see here, we've got the Federation, who's identified that they've identified this base. They have a YFEL here, so they're trying to explore. And it looks as though they're going to try and build a base here in Alpha Alpha 39. If that's the case, and let me move my head because I noticed that the watermark is covering me there. If this is the case, then they're going to open up the maps. Now, that could be really good in the sense that it'll allow sort of really clear discussion between the 2 of them as to where the border should be or shouldn't be, and open transparency and communication. But if, as we've seen in sort of some other players, if they're trying to be cagey or they're trying to be a little more mischievous when it comes to the border relations, then that may not be the best course of action. But either way, this convoy, as of right now, based on what we can see, is definitely extending supply to this YCA. It's extending supply because it's within the supply range of this base, and this YCA definitely is not. And therefore, so right now that Y convoy is providing a specific tug mission that extends the supply another 3 hexes. So 1, 2, 3, and you can see that there. So what's interesting though, and I don't know if the Federation explored these hexes in advance, perhaps when he discovered the base, there was a role play encounter between the ship captain and the base commander that opened up that little pocket. For example, the Tholians shared their map for that little pocket to show this is our base. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but it's very interesting to see that there's this little very symmetrical pocket that's open here. This may indicate that there's going to be a beginning of some kind of discussion or dialogue between them, and they're going to set up a border and kumbaya all the way around. We'll see. We'll see. It's very, very interesting. But like I say, Tholian base right there on the map. That's pretty impressive. Now, let's just take a quick look at the rest of the sort of information. So let's do around the clock. We'll start with EP. So as we can see here, we can see that the Federation has an income of 22 economic points. So they're at 22, which is really good. If we remove their bases, we can see that they've discovered a new resource here and looks like in the north as well. So they're slowly continuing to grow. What's interesting to note as well is that the reach or the distance from their homeworld. So this is their homeworld system here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're at approximately a 5 hex, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 hex distance from their homeworld, and they're starting to bump into people. Very interesting and important to note. Let's take a quick look at, let's bring the ships and bases back. Let's take a look at their FleetCap. FleetCap. There it is. All right. So we can see here that the Federation fleet cap is pretty significant. They have 13 ship equivalents and a total fleet cap of 72. So 39 attacks, 72 defense, pretty significant. If we open this up, we can see that they've got, in their home fleet, they've got 3 ship equivalents there. So staying close to home. But we can see, as we look at the map, we can see the spread of, he's got this armada of W era cruisers, which is significant. And then we can see that there is a he's pumping out these Y-era cruisers as well, which is really important because, first of all, Y-era cruisers move 4 versus the W-era cruisers, which move 3. So greater distance. Obviously, you can see here that the Y-era cruisers have an attack of 4 and a defense of 6 versus the 3-5 of the W-era cruisers. So, better firepower. And of course, as a cruiser with a prime team embarked, they have the same ability or the same chance to discover fogged out hexes as a small exploration freighter. So very interesting to see that as it's going. We've got, man, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and arguably 10. 10 different ships, cruisers with Y or prime teams embarked, which he's using to be able to explore above and beyond his large exploration freighters, which he's using. Very interesting to note, I don't see a survey cruiser, and I want to say, and I don't know this, I don't remember from the Federation ship list if they have an early era exploration cruiser. I think that they do, but they obviously they haven't built one. Now, it's interesting to note that because obviously, so exploration cruisers or exploration ships are more expensive to build based on the unique use case for them. And so in this case, the Federation player has chosen to go with the cheaper cruiser option, which is really good. As you can see here, he's built a cruiser with a prime team, which gives him really good chances of exploration. And of course, he's built an armada or a fleet to be able to defend himself should he need it. Based on the fact that there's 2 YFELs, there's room for an exploration freighter, and he's at Y-era technology. It would be my recommendation that he build a Y-era survey cruiser if he can. If he can't, then fair enough. I mean, it is what it is, but that's what I would recommend. Also interesting to note that he's got the wormhole here, and it would seem, as I zoom out, that he has not sent a ship through the wormhole, because as we scroll up here, we can see that there's no other ship anywhere else. So interesting. No exploration of the wormhole, which is fine, but very much an encounter with the Tholians down here. Very, very exciting. All right, let's switch over to the map with the hydrants, the ISC, and as we can see here in the top corner, the remnants.